Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nabela. I'm from International Business Administration Study Program, Semester 6A. I would like to present about Operation Strategy Formulation. In the first slide, we talk about Operation Strategy Framework. Operation Strategy provides the ability to improve products, services, and processes. To develop the strategy, consider the business or corporate strategy and market or needs analysis. Then consider the competing priorities of cost, quality, time, and flexibility, and how you'll handle them. These factors combine like this to provide an operation strategy framework as outlined by Lean Transformation Consultant Anand Subramanian. First, we start with the business or corporate strategy, laying out objectives such as return on investment or ROI, profits, and growth. Second, we move to marketing strategy, where we consider factors such as customer segments, standardization versus customization, innovation level, and leaders versus follower alternatives. Third, next comes other winning criteria such as quality, price, delivery speed, design, and after-sales support. Fourth, last comes operational or manufacturing strategy, which includes sources of structure such as facilities and process, and infrastructure such as planning or control systems and work organization. Fitting into that strategy are the elements of products or process designs, inventory, quality management, human resources, and job design and maintenance. And moving to the next slide, we talk about strategy formulation. Strategy formulation requires a defined set of 6 steps for effective implementation. Those steps are step 1, define the organization. The first step in defining an organization is to identify the company's customers. Without a strong customer base whose needs are being filled, an organization will not be successful. A company must identify the factors that are valued by its customer. Is the value based on the superior products or service relative to the competition? Are your customers buying your product for your low prices? Do you produce products that meet image needs of your customers? Step 2. Define the strategic missions. An organization's strategic missions offers a long-range perspective of what the organization strives for going forward. A clearly stated mission will provide the organization with a guide for carrying out its plans. Elements of a strong strategy mission statement should include the values that the organization holds, the nature of the business, special abilities or position the organization holds in the marketplace, and the organization's visions of where it wants to be in the future. Step 3. Define the strategic objectives. This third step in the strategy formulation process requires an organization to identify the performance targets needed to reach clearly stated objectives. These objectives may include market position relative to the competition, production of goods and services, desired market share, improved customer service, cooperation expansion, advance in technology, and sales increases. Strategic objectives must be communicated with all employees and stakeholders in order to ensure success. Step 4. Define the competitive strategy. The next step in strategy formulation requires an organization to determine where it fits into the marketplace. This applies not only to the organizations as a whole, but to each individual unit and department throughout the enterprise. Each area must be aware of its role within the company and how those roles enable the organization to maintain its competitive position. 3 factors must be considered when determining the overall competitive strategy: the industry and marketplace, the company's position relative to the competition, and the company's internal strengths and weaknesses. Step 5. Implement strategies. Developing a strategy is only effective if it's put into place, and organizations may take all the necessary steps to understand the marketplace, define itself, and identify the competition. However, without implementing the strategy, the organization's work will be of little to no value. The methods employed for implementing strategies are known as tactics. These individual actions enable an organization to build foundations for implementation. Companies are able to identify which of their efforts are more successful than others and will uncover new methods of implementation if necessary. Step 6. Evaluate progress. As in any plan, a regular evaluations of processes and results is vital to ongoing success. An organization must keep track of the progress it is making as defined by its strategic plan. If goals are not being made, the organization must be adaptable and flexible to recognize that changes may be needed. An organization should consider the following questions on a continuous basis in order to evaluate progress. Have market conditions changed that may require a change in a corporate direction? Are there new entries in the marketplace to pose a competitive threat? Okay, that's all about Operation Strategy Formulation, and here is a video to know more about how to formulate strategy for operations. The name of the video is How Toyota Changed the Way We Make Things. Enjoy the video.
Here's how Toyota changed the way we make things. Following the Second World War, Japan was left in a precarious economic position.
Steel and other metals are scarce.
Already disadvantaged by lacking natural resources, materials were hard to come by, and companies had to be creative to compete. Toyota's founder, Seikichi Toyoda, had started a loom business, but it was his son Kichiro who founded the motor company in 1937. They were used to working within narrow margins. As the shortage of materials increased during the war, the number of headlamps on its Model K truck was reduced to one, and it only had brakes on one of the axles. The turning point for Toyota's production system would come in the early 50s, when Kichiro's cousin Eiji would travel to the US with a veteran loom machinist, Taiichi Ono. They visited Ford's River Rouge plant in Michigan and were impressed by the scale of the operation, but knew that in cash-strapped Japan, companies didn't have the resources for such a system. Having months' worth of stock sitting in a warehouse would tie up precious capital they didn't have. Instead, what truly impressed Ono was a visit to a supermarket, a Piggly Wiggly, according to legend. Japan didn't really have self-service stores at this point, and he was struck by the way customers could choose exactly what they wanted, when they wanted. He decided to model his production line on a similar idea. With the supermarket formula, only enough parts were produced in the first phase to replace what was used in the second, and so on. This is where the just-in-time system really took shape. Toyota was able to eliminate much of the waste in Ford's system, making smaller numbers of parts to be used when it needed them, allowing the company to operate on a tighter budget. As part of this, Ono developed Kanban, a sign-based scheduling method which shows goods in production, and goods out. It's now seen as a precursor to barcodes. Ono and Toyota also noticed that American car companies were still employing many of Henry Ford's early production techniques. They kept operations at full tilt in order to maximize efficiencies of scale, but then had to repair defective cars after they rolled off the line. Ono believed this caused more problems and didn't encourage workers or machines to stop making the mistake. So he placed a cord above every station which any worker could pull to stop the entire assembly if they spotted a problem. The whole team would work on it to prevent it from happening again. As teams identified more problems, the number of errors began to drop dramatically. Combined with a culture of continuous incremental improvement called Kaizen, the Toyota production system built a brand known for making reliable and affordable cars. But Toyota was also getting good at producing cars quickly. In 1962, the company had produced 1 million vehicles. By 1972, they'd produced 10 million. It was around that time that the efficiencies of their factories enabled Toyota to produce a car every 1.6 man-hours, much lower than their competitors in the US, Sweden, and Germany. And as the oil crises of the decade sent gas prices higher, cheap-to-run Japanese cars became much more appealing to Americans, whose powerful but gas-guzzling vehicles suddenly became very expensive to run. Today, Toyota has made over 250 million vehicles. Others have looked to them to learn the lessons of lean, combining craft with mass production, avoiding waste while striving for constant improvement. Boeing is perhaps the most famous, restructuring a plant to better suit TPS. Intel is another long-time lean ambassador and is exploring the principles in the context of AI and the Internet of Things. A Canadian hospital even used Toyota's system to decrease wait times in its ER. The Toyota production system changed not just how cars are made globally, but how we approach making things full stop. It also showed that there's always a better way to make a product.
So, from the video, we know that in the success of Toyota, they must now formulate strategy for their productions. The inspirations came from a visit to the Ford River Rouge plants in the US and the Piggly Wiggly in the supermarket. Ono, veteran Toyota technicians, was inspired to use the supermarket formula, namely just in time to provide the goods customers need. They tried to make vehicles by changing some components and make vehicles quickly, and there is no waste in production. After that, Toyota was able to grow from year to year, especially when the oil crisis that occurred in Germany caused an increase in demand of Toyota vehicles. Now Toyota has made over than 250 million vehicles using its Toyota production system. Moreover, many have followed the production model applied by Toyota, so it can be said that the formulations of Toyota's strategy and its manufacturing operations was successful. Okay, that's all my presentation about Operation Strategy Formulations. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.